Hi, it's What's Going On. I'm your host, Hugo Fernandez. And today, my guests from the Registrar's office, Chastity Hernandez, a business data and reporting analyst, and Stephen Silva, who's our course scheduler. And they're going to be talking a little bit about what they've been doing during the pandemic, and in the words of President Adams, how they've been going above and beyond to keep the college running. So welcome, Stephen. Welcome, Chastity. Say
Hi,
hi.
everyone.
I started out the show with Sting. Stephen and I we got together yesterday with colleagues, and I'd forgotten, but I was meeting his parents for the first time, and remembered that Stephen is Chilean, and I don't know. I started thinking about Sting and that particular song, "They Dance Alone." Stephen, do you know the backstory on that song? I can't hear you,
Yeah.
Stephen. Are you muted? I think you're muted.
There you go. Sorry. So was it the Desert Rose, Hugo, the song from Sting, or?
No, it's called "They Dance Alone." It's basically, it was on this album called "Nothing Like the Sun," but it was a political song that was kind of an indictment of the Pinochet administration for their policy of where they would just pick people up and what they call the disappearing ones. And because he had been, I guess he was on tour and he saw these women who like dance with these photographs on their chest, and they're dancing La Huerca, right? Which is the national dance of Chile.
Yes,
you know how to dance La Huerca?
I learned from. It's
you
very
gotta
simple.
You gotta teach me.
It's kind of like a flirtation dance. It's a flirtation dance.
It is?
Where, like, you dance with the feet, with the partner. It's like a traditional independent dance that they do for Independence Day. So.
Okay. Well, so I thought that might be something good, and we'll hear the rest of it at the end of the show because it's pretty long. But I want to give the two of you an opportunity to introduce yourselves. I've already said a little bit about Stephen, but why don't you tell us a little bit more, Stephen, about your background and studies and before LaGuardia?
I actually graduated from Queensborough Community College under Computer Information Systems. And then I received my bachelor's degree with City Tech, continuing with Computer Information Systems. I actually been here for LaGuardia almost now 20 years, as President Adams was mentioning about the services I've been on for this campus. And a lot of people have received a lot of recognition from my fellow colleagues. And I actually came out of high school working for the college. I had a relative that used to work here for LaGuardia. And she guided me the right path, helping out students. And I was out of the blue, not knowing, but I was a quick learning, pick it up to help out students right away with the registration lab, starting from the beginning, working my way up as the transcript processor. And then right now, as my current role being as the course scheduler for the whole entire campus.
All right, which is a big job. Chastity, you want to talk a little bit about your background?
Sure. So I first actually was a student at LaGuardia. I graduated from LaGuardia, got my associates in criminal justice, and I moved forward on to John Jay, where I got my bachelor's in pre-law. Then from there, I kind of stopped studying for a little while, but my LaGuardia career started as a student at LaGuardia. So I've been working here for almost 8 years. And originally, I wasn't working for the registrar's office. I worked with NSAR for advising. And so that means I worked closely related with the registrar's office, but not directly where I was under them. Due to budget cuts, they had to let me go. But luckily for me, Burhan Siddiqui, who's the registrar of LaGuardia Community College, recognized my efforts and pulled me into the registrar's office to work in the registration lab. And about 7 years later, now I'm in charge of it. So I know, right? It's really funny. I worked my way up from that. I also, as Steve mentioned, he was doing transcripts as well. I started doing transcripts as well. And now I'm also in charge of it. So it's been a really fun course at LaGuardia, and I have to say that it's my favorite department in the entire place. So I'm happy to be here.
Oh, it's good that you feel that way. Yeah. By the way, Burhan is like kind of like his ghost is here because we went Burhan. I forgot what excuse he gave me, saying that he, I don't know whether he's like camera shy or he just likes to be behind the scenes.
He's kind of like Phil Jackson to me,
you know,
the Zen master. So yes.
Oh, is he? It's funny because he used to come and he would speak at the college senate, and I forget where Burhan's from, but wherever he's from, he's like the Marlon Brando of that place. Very handsome gentleman. Okay, so why don't you, because people, obviously we hear registrar's office all the time. But I don't think anybody, short of that they're the people who make the schedule, whatever it is, put whatever, populate CUNY first, whatever they think it is. Tell us a little bit, with both of your roles, like what do you guys do at the registrar's office? And you could talk about it as a year-round thing or just in general.
Is it okay if I go?
Go ahead, Chad.
So year-round, at the registrar's office that I also do is grade changes, all grade changes, WN corrections, which are for students who have like non-attendance withdrawal. We need to reverse it if a student actually is attending. There's graduation audits that get done for the registrar's office. I'm not directly involved, but that's something that we also do, as well as candidacy. Like, there's so much the registrar's office does that a lot of people forget and think that they just create the courses and then register students, but we do a lot more than just that.
Is Anthony Scalafani, is he the auditor still? Because I remember Anthony, he would come to the college senate, to the committee of faculty. This happens like every year before graduation, and they do a printout and you take a look at it, and then you decide whether or not. I think back in the days when Jose Plasencia was with you.
Correct.
I don't know if you remember then. And but Anthony still does it now. He's like the main guy. And anyhow, great guy. I always see him walking over to the court square. He likes to sit there and I guess just watch.
He does like to eat at Delubio's. That was his place to go for lunchtime. So yeah.
Oh really? Okay. So all right. So what else? What else happens at the registrar's office?
I'm sorry, Steve. You could go ahead and talk. I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's fine. But I also want to clarify. I forgot to mention I used to be under the SIC, working for the data team, and as well the Student Information Center.
What's SIC?
Working with Loretta, Michael, Nancy, Edwin Acosta. I used to work with them as well, handling with the data information as well before coming as the course schedule. That's one I want to mention them. I didn't want to forget about them. And my yearly round is with scheduling or any events that's happening, or sometimes I just was looking at my emails Friday. We had a water leakage at the little theater that was an accident. Mm-hmm. So sometimes you have to be prepared, have alternative plans with courses or what's going on campus. So
I mean, like find somebody a room if they cannot use that room. I think that's happened. I remember there was a situation many years ago where I needed another room for whatever reason, and you found it for me.
I'm always on the line of duty right there on the call, just like Batman being called on the phone right there. So
yeah, that's another thing which we've talked about. They wanted to get you on the Streamathon you're going to do a PowerPoint about the history of Marvel, because that's something that a lot of people don't know about you.
I was so busy with the whole spring.
Your Marvel comics.
With spring. No.
Were you busy or were you just camera shy?
I was scheduling that at that time, Hugo. I couldn't be part of the Streamathon, but I remember you talked about it. So.
Yeah, it was interesting because last night when we were hanging around with our colleagues, somebody came up with a number, and you knew what that class was. And so I had this interesting idea. If let's say, I picked something, like I said, I don't even know. The problem is I don't know if this is a real class because okay, well it went in. So BTP 101. What's that?
Intro to paralegal.
You both know, right? So this is like I can't stump you, right? If any particular course I come up with, right?
We may get
you want me to try? I'll try one more. I'm gonna do like one of my obscure something that I know from my area. So let's say, well, I'll just say it. HUA 289.
Oh, that's the design course that goes with the Reg hour.
It's definitely a humanities course.
It's a design course. That's why.
Yeah.
Well, HUA, that's the tipper.
Keep it all together up here. 289. Ooh.
I hear you.
That's one of the Capcorn. Yeah, that's a
Steven's
Capcorn course.
Hey, you're cheating. You're looking it up.
It's an intro design course. Yeah.
Art design seminar. That's what it is. I know. I only know that because I teach it.
Yes, that's Hugo's.
Because there's some like, if I don't teach the class, I wouldn't,
Majority he does the photography.
Beginning sculpture.
Well. Hugo does photography.
Oh, photography.
Or
yeah.
HUN 195,
I know a lot of them.
The urban class as well.
So you also know, if I could tell you a class, you also know who typically teaches it too, right?
Not everyone.
Oh, are you actually in your office right now, there, Stephen? With the blurred background. Okay. So, and again, one of the things that people don't realize, which I find fascinating. So right now you're working on what? What are you guys working on as far as the schedule of the college? Are you working on spring still?
Checking on spring, make sure everything's up to date, and as well checking for winter courses as well. So as well.
And is
student.
Oh, so you're already. Well, you mean like fall too, right
checking
now?
In case the rooms are fine, or I've been getting requests to cancel courses to see if I can swap students into other available sections for them.
And when do you guys start working on fall 2022?
That'll be pretty soon. It's coming soon.
Yeah, so this is always like, for me, it's like amazing that you're always working at least six to 8 months ahead of whatever else is going on. Okay, well, I think we can get into it. Somebody getting a phone call? Is that you, Stephen? Don't they know you're busy, man? Don't they know you're an important guy? Why don't we get started in this? Because obviously your job is, like you said, you're a busy guy. Like whenever we try, even like, sometimes we have, when we get together after work, you're usually working all the time. You guys are busy. But then the pandemic happened. So you want to kind of start walking us through what kind of, we can go all the way back to March of, I guess it was, I'm trying to remember now. So was it March 2020 when the pandemic began?
March 13th was the last day of being on campus.
What do you remember about that whole thing? What was the impact initially for you folks? Were you not even dealing with it because you were really focused on what was it, the fall of 2020, or were there issues that were happening at the registrar's office right out of the gate when they sent everybody home?
I guess I'm going to discuss the part that has to do with non-scheduling. So Steve will discuss that part after. But it all started a couple of days before they actually sent us home. I had a discussion with DeWint Dawkins, who is my supervisor, right under Burhan, I believe. And, he was telling us, like, they're going to make us leave. Like, we're going to end up having to stay home. What are we going to do? And I'm like, well, how are we going to access our files on campus? How are we going to, bring them home? Because we can't all have virtual access through the computer because IT doesn't give that to everyone. So the first thing we thought about was looking up tools that CUNY offers. For example, Dropbox. We were able to transfer a lot of data there to pull so we can use at home. And that helped a lot of certain processes like candidacy forms and change of majors and stuff like that. Then when we officially went home, the next question became a couple weeks later was like, okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to be able to talk to these students? We can't talk to them over the phone. We don't have an office phone. And many people were uncomfortable with their own phone, which we shouldn't necessarily have to anyway, but it was an issue. We can only talk to students with emails. And everyone knows that not all students know about the directory on the website, and not all students know how to like get in contact with a specific department or a specific person in the department. So we started, gnawing and thinking and trying to figure out what we can do. And we all collaborated together, came up with using the idea of Blackboard. I'm not sure if you've used it, Hugo, for any of your classes.
Are you kidding? Well, I mean, so here's, it's funny because Blackboard was something I was turned on to years ago. We had an episode. We had an art historian who got sick, and I got called. I used to call myself the Travis Bickle of the art area because Bruce Brooks, who was the former coordinator for both photo and fine art, would just basically like, hey, can you teach this? I go, yeah. Can you teach it on a Sunday, at noon? I said, yeah. So anywhere, anytime, that was my, the kind of motto for me as an adjunct, when I was an adjunct. And the woman had Blackboard. And that was the first time, she had set up this Blackboard. And so I've been doing Blackboard for decades. And used to get actually upset when they would when they would archive my sites. So that part of the transition was easy for me. But you actually moved a lot of your data,
most of the data
to Blackboard?
To Dropbox. We can pull any forms we needed that were fillable or upload any documents that were signed from chairs and students. But the next step we had to move on to was, how can we access students? How can we help them? So we already figured out data issue where we can retrieve all this data that we put up there right before we went virtual. And the next step was, how can we help the students? We couldn't go on campus to register students. We couldn't go on campus to open our registration lab and help them. So we had to figure out a way to do it virtually. And the way we did that was using Blackboard. Yes.
You mean like Collaborate?
So what we did was we created first we created one room to test it out, which was the virtual registration lab. And then we created the second room, which is the C107 registrar office. So they're completely separate. One is for students who need help with registering or overriding any classes. And the other one is for virtual office help for change of major forms, transcripts, any questions about academic appeals if they need to submit an appeal, anything that we would normally do in the office, we were able to do that online. And the best part about this that I was really happy when we launched it was the fact that we were able to give the students the same entry we would have in the office. So if a student came in who, let's say, never attended, but wanted to know anything about the courses here, what we have available, they would walk into C107, speak to the registrar's office. And now they can do the same thing. All they have to do is go on the website and click on a button. They don't have to sign in on their VIP page or have to be a current student or any of the sort. They just have to go to our website and click on one of the two offices, and we can assist them in any way that is, whether they want to do a readmission, they want to change of major, if they need help registering their classes, we're able to do that. And with Blackboard Collaborate, as you already know, we can share screen, and the students can share screens with us, and we can put them in individual rooms. So it really helps us to give the student the one-on-one feel that we would have given them in the office. So it's been such a great thing that we implemented, I believe, officially July of 2020. I think.
Yes. Yeah, July. Because we did some testing in June.
There was some issues, but we were able to make it work, and we officially launched I think July 1st or something. And it's been so effective, and we've been able to help so many students across the board.
You think you're helping more than you were pre-pandemic
as a result of the
online option?
I honestly do, because the amount of numbers we have gotten, of how many students come in, even just to ask a basic question on who can they contact from another department, we're able to give that information. We're able to give website links, or we're able to give emails to direct people that they can get in contact with who are not able to answer the phone. So I feel like we're really helping a lot more out there that we couldn't have reached in person if they were already in another state, or they were somewhere because of the pandemic, they couldn't come back to New York.
Right.
We were still able to help those students. So that's what we were able to do during the pandemic, at least on the office side, aside from the scheduling that Steve is going to be able to talk about.
Actually, I had a few things happen. Somebody walked into your office. Who was that? Burhan?
Yeah.
So Burhan ended up on camera even though he didn't
Yes.
want to. The other thing is here. So here's a question: why did you go with Blackboard Collaborate over Zoom?
When we were trying to do Zoom, it seemed that there was a lot of issues with the links not being accurate of some sort. Derwin was telling me, like they kept getting not closed out, like expired or something was going on. And when he tried to do it reoccurrently, he couldn't. So we had to come up with a different way. And the next best solution was Blackboard Collaborate, because you could put reoccurring sessions and then get the link on the website itself, and it gets automatically connected. So it really, this was the best option.
And you put that link
it's
up
on the
LaGuardia
on the Registrar's website.
Is that where
Yes.
it was?
Yep. Yeah.
So if I went there now, I'd see it. It's interesting because we in humanities we had created a virtual office Blackboard site, but obviously the only way I think students would have found out about it is if a faculty member had told them. So and whether a faculty member is going to, I mean, I'm thinking about it now, and I don't think I even shared that with my students this time. So the student would know that they could virtually go there to get help. But the fact that it's on I'm pulling up your page right now, and so that's kind of what makes it more interesting, is the fact that you can. It's linked there. What's fascinating about Blackboard Collaborate? So we go back to, are you aware of this? Because the truth was, 50% of faculty had never been on Blackboard before the pandemic, even though these courses are created for you automatically by CUNY. They were always there. People just weren't using them. But Blackboard Collaborate was another animal, because I remember I'd gone to a tech event at Baruch, and it was demonstrated to me. And I came back, and I was like running around the 4th and 5th floor saying, hey, there's this thing, Blackboard Collaborate. Can anybody show me how to do it? And they were like, no.
Oh, wow.
We can't. But maybe you could get somebody at the central office, or here's a video. Like, go watch this video. Because I had notions of, I can't remember what I wanted to use it for. But, it looked cool. So anyhow, but so that was the data and helping students with a lot of other things. But for Stephen, what happened on your end as in March 2019 when it first happened?
That would have been, well, right now, that March 2020, it was going with
2019. Oh no, sorry, 2020.
We were under about a few months away of losing the license for Resource 25, as well as with Chastity trying to get the right,
What's Resource 25?
Scheduling system that we used to use for scheduling courses at the time. Even though it was like, once I scheduled there, then I had to input everything into CUNY first.
I think I've used that before, because people use that to schedule events. Like Karen McKeon would send me, go to art. She would send me the link, and I would have to try to schedule. But I was always trying to schedule rooms that you couldn't schedule there.
Yes, and then that was running.
So that was running out
at June of 2020, and then we weren't sure what would be the new system after that. So, and then changing was also the modality from the in-person into the either hybrid or online, which we weren't sure since we had scheduled all in classrooms. And then when September came for the fall of 2020, I did schedule everything as in person, thinking that we'd be back, but then everything was reverted back to as an online modality semester right there. So anything that we did had to be redone again.
So when you do that, does this mean going into the system and one by one reversing classes? Okay, and that was for 2020. Yeah. But spring of 2021, I'm trying to do the math, but at that point, so at each occasion, it always started out while we were scheduling. The notion was we'd be back to face, wasn't it?
We always had that mentality, thinking we were coming back. If not, then reverse everything back as the formality right there. So Yeah.
You're getting calls. What's everybody? What?
As you can say.
What? Yeah. What are people trying? People are trying to get rooms
It's
right now.
registration
People trying to
rooms,
switch rooms.
I'm the go-to person.
Rooms. A lot of people don't know the difference because, I mean, obviously we've talked a little bit about, you know, all the things you guys do, but because we get these questions all the time. And so what is the big difference between admissions and registration? I mean, I know, like, there's a line out the door at 107. Chastity is laughing.
Question.
Look, by the way,
it's a very common question, actually.
What is it? It's a common question. Yeah, well, and that's why I ask it. And by the way, it's 1:29, so I'm going to use this as an opportunity to do a quick station break. The show is What's Going On. I'm your host, Hugo Fernandez, here on LaGuardia Web Radio, WLGR. Today's show, we're focusing on the Registrar's Office with Chastity Fernandez, who does business data and is a reporting analyst, and Steven Silva, who is our course scheduler at the office. And President Adams, in his words, has said, you know, the Registrar's Office has gone above and beyond dealing with, you know, keeping the college running during the COVID-19 pandemic. And so, and we were just before the station break, I asked the ubiquitous question, which is, what is the difference between admissions and registrar? Okay, so there you go.
Okay.
What is the difference? Because I know, like, C107, right? There's always a line out during registration. There's always a line outside the door, people trying to get in.
So
or used to be,
make that
we were physical.
Clear, usually there's a line because you got to remember we also share that C107 space with financial aid. So some of the students on the line during registration time or during the end of registration time is here for financial aid to make sure all their classes will be covered by financial aid. So as well as some of them on the line to see us specifically to do any changes to their schedule or to handle any residency forms that need to be submitted. So from working with LaGuardia for almost 8 years, there's so much, like, no, it's a new student, so their admissions, no, it's a continuing student once they register a class, so it's a registrar issue. It's a lot of back and forth sometimes with students, but from what I know, students who first admit to the college, they fill out the application, whether they do that with admissions online or they do it themselves online, that gets submitted to admissions office. Then, on top of that, they submit, if they are a transfer student, they submit any transcripts and stuff to get evaluated with a transfer credit evaluator at the admissions office, not registrar. Once the student actually registers their classes, anything after that pretty much is us. So whether it's changing their residency status, updating their course schedule, changing their major or giving them any information about it. Of course, they could see an advisor, but sometimes they want to see a full degree plan because we have, like, the course catalog and all that stuff that we can explain to them. So really, once a student registers their classes, they're ours and graduate.
Right. And since, you know, you were talking before about transcripts. So when Kit was, sorry, I just heard something in my office, like something dropped in my house. God knows what it is. I'm like cleaning bathrooms. My wife comes home tonight from a long trip, and so Mr. Hugo is cleaning up. It's been Animal House for a week. Anyhow, so with transcripts, students are transferring, but I was also thinking that a lot of students, I see this through the LaGuardia Facebook page, where they're going on about when do I get my diploma, or how am I going to get my diploma? And I think you know, I'm not on the Senate's Committee of Faculty anymore, but so I don't know if the auditing was if Anthony was still doing the auditing in the spring and the fall, whatever it is. But do you also play a role in that with the transcripts and the degree award and all that stuff?
If students, you know, put orders in, we process them. One thing, if students are listening, because some may not know this, I would like to make this super, super clear as day. We don't automatically just send you your transcript when you graduate. That does not happen. A lot of students believe it does, but it doesn't happen that way. If you want to see your official transcript, you know, or needed to go somewhere, you can request it. However, on CUNY First, you can view your unofficial transcript if you need to. It's a very easy process. You can always look up a video or come to our virtual registration office and we can help you with that on how to do it. As for diplomas, I don't personally do the processing for diplomas, and I don't think that Steve does either. Am I right?
No.
Yeah.
No, it's Anthony with Norella.
I think after 2020, or is it 2021, that they're going to start mailing and sending virtual copies.
I think they started this March, the virtual
2021.
PDF
emailing.
Mailed.
So, but of course, then you have to suppose that whatever the email is that you think the student uses,
well, I'm pretty sure they reach out to the student beforehand,
the student
and they also mail stuff, because like before the pandemic, students will receive a letter in the mail letting them know to come pick up the diploma. And they also get like notifications through their email letting them know that hey, once your graduation status is posted, you know, I think back then it was like what, 2 months for when the diplomas came in. Maybe now it's a month.
And the student has to put in an intent to graduate, and I'm guessing on that form there's probably something asking for contact, right?
Yes.
Info. Because again, students, you know, contact information is fluid, as we know. In this, so what has, you know, again, Stephen, so what has made the scheduling tougher? Is it basically that we sit around waiting for CUNY Central to tell us, are we face-to-face or not, that kind of it? Is that really the issue that keeps making it difficult? Well, and right now, obviously, we're looking for the spring for a 70-30.
In which we went up
modality,
76-24. So.
Yeah, we're like number 2 after
Correct.
somebody.
I'm not sure which other CUNY school, but we did complete our goal of reaching at 70%. So.
I don't know. I want to say BCC because it's, you know, President Adams' former you know, location, and he's, you know, he's kind of like has a thing about, you know, he's competitive with them.
Yeah, it's always going to have a competitive side on that. So
with them. But one of the things I brought this up with, I can't remember who I brought it up with. I brought it up with a lot of people. I brought it up though with Paul Arcario, our provost, Dr. Arcario, about, so students are signing up. I mean, obviously there's only 30% of the classes are online. We know that students were hot to one of the first times people were like, when are the classes going to be available? Because, you know, a lot of people wanted to get those online classes. So the online classes fill, right? And the question becomes then, what do we do when the onlines fill? Are we going to basically wait for students to sign up for the face-to-face, or will coordinators start offering new online options, or will we start converting those courses to online? That's not your decision, is it?
It's not my decision on that part, no.
But it will be your work
to
do.
That'll be my work to do, yes.
Okay, well, here's another interesting one, which is because we were not tethered to the physical space anymore. For example, beginning drawing, the only place that we classically teach that is, you probably know the room better than I do, M2 something, right?
226,
What's
227, or 229.
So basically, it could be in the painting studio, it could be in the drawing studio, it could be in the design lab. Not sculpture, though, right?
That would not be under the sculpture.
The sculpture.
Right.
That wouldn't be in the sculpture lab. But if all those rooms are full at a particular hour, and we know what the hot hours are for students, right? What are the hottest hours, Monday through Friday?
10:30 to 2, or that recent semesters would have been Tuesday, Thursdays. Especially Tuesdays, it's from 10:30 up to 3:15.
Like 5.
Or 4:25.
Yeah. But you could technically schedule right on top of 2 classes right on top of each other, because you're not tethered to the room. And that's been happening?
Sometimes I will have to either ask Arthur, who's the director for the drawing, if he can move an hour down for the class, or we may use a regular classroom, which we usually use N156. No,
but I'm saying if we're doing it online, we usually tag it as then we can just
Correct.
stack them up.
Correct.
Like O'Hare. So we got that going for us with the online modality.
That was like more of the relaxed mode with the online synchronous for scheduling. I would say that that was kind of like the more ease back. But going back as in person, it was being back on the training wheels and trying to memorize what I used to do, before the pre-pandemic era. So
you got out of shape. And I mean, and I know that this was an issue. Well, back in 2007, when we had that great influx of students, and we were running. I remember we were running drawing classes at 6:15 in the morning or something, some kind of
when
ungodly
I used to do
hour.
transcripts at that time. Yes, I remember we were offering courses at 6 a.m. Yeah, when enrollment was super high. Yeah,
right. What was that? But we've had a drop in enrollment, right? In the last, I mean, that was happening just because of the whatever you call the demographics of the high school graduation rates. How bad was it? Like when you were scheduling spring of 2019? How tough was it for rooms? What's space like now at the college, as far as? Pardon me? No, I'm talking about when we scheduled 2019. That was
the worst.
We were scheduling without the pandemic in mind, right? What? So how bad was it?
Class cancellation for them was the worst. I remember that. But space was available for that, to accommodate teachers. Or we did add it late, an English or math courses that everyone was asking for, because those are the hotcake courses for the nursing students or new students who are coming in to take courses right there as well. So.
Yeah, I remember at the height of enrollment, we sometimes classes would get scheduled in rooms that were like, a closet or a bath. Like people didn't know. Was that when you were just starting out and you didn't know what the rooms were?
No, I was still doing transcripts at the time.
It wasn't you.
It was not me. No. Whoever was doing it back then, like I said, I was a team player. I chipped in, try to help learn something new. So I wanted to chip in as a team player and help out the Registrar's team right there.
So I guess, in general, how's it going for you? What's the general tenor at the Registrar's office as we move through the, I don't know what, people keep thinking, I don't know what we're expecting at this point. And Paul said this again. I don't know if it's supposed to be hush hush. It's not. But the fact that it's endemic now, that our expectation of COVID-19 is that, it's going to be like, getting a flu shot or whatever. It's going to be this thing that's going to be with us. And we need to think in those terms as far as the way the place is set up, safety. I mean, is that one of the things that you had to put into the mix for scheduling, as far as the number of students and the size of the room?
For this fall semester, yes. That was more of a challenge. It was as well. I was very well guided with Burhan on the fall semester. It was tough, but he did guide me through with that part of scheduling for this fall semester.
So it was like a math thing, right? Like you'd sit down with Jahir's people and you say this room has X cubic feet. Correct. And so it can even though the course proposal says you can run it with 35.
Correct.
You can technically only have X number of students. So that was, because some people were thinking like that wasn't happening.
Right. It was all rumors about that.
And there was overloading. But this is something we think about, and that's still in place, right? For spring, for spring 2021.
Not for 2021. We're doing as our old pre-pandemic days, as scheduling, as in person, doing everything back to back. Know how we did this.
Chastity, you're trying to keep us correct on the calendar here.
Talking about 2022 spring, which is the next one coming, right?
Right.
So we're not applying any of these guidelines about what we were doing for fall. Now we're running basically the way we used to, with the expectation that everybody's vaccinated, everybody's wearing masks, that the ventilation systems are running at top capacity.
That's correct.
Or at capacity, or whatever capacity they're supposed to be at. Actually, supposedly the HVAC system is better than it was before the pandemic, as far as filtration and repairs. So
hopefully,
if anything, hopefully. We're almost moving to the third quarter hour. I'm just trying to pull up the Twitch stream to see if no questions are coming in. There are a lot of people listening, but I guess Dr. Riccio is typically will text me a question, but I'm also watching because we're moving. So let's talk about, and I guess I have been talking about this a little bit until we get a question from the audience, because we're almost in our last quarter hour. What's the future? I mean, what are you guys over there talking about? I mean, you're both physically at the campus.
Today I'm working from home.
Wow, your home looks like an office.
I worked very hard to make it a little office, so thank you.
I see you got a board back there, like a race board. What do you got, magazines on the side
like
there?
Forums and papers from prior to the pandemic. Well, right when the pandemic hit that I had to store. And a couple of magazines.
Here's a question for you, Chastity. What percentage do you think of your job you could continue doing from home?
If I'm being
moving forward,
honest, and if
well, you could lie to me if you want.
Well, I mean, people like to fluff things up, so I just want to be straight across the board. Right. If we're able to keep most of the registration lab virtual or part of it, I can do all my work from home. Everything, grade changes, college now registration, WN corrections, appeals, everything that we've been doing so far for almost 2 years, I've been able to do from home, and I can still continue to do it from home.
So what do you miss about being physically at the campus? Are you ever on campus? Right. So what would you miss from the campus setting?
The only thing that I miss is the people. Like that togetherness that we used to have, like, going to Steve's office, see what he's doing, and like chit-chatting for a few minutes, going to Allison's office, and like just the togetherness that we used to have, and how even though our communicative skills are great virtually, we're able to use Teams so fast, and people respond really quickly, whether at home in the office. But I gotta say, it was a little bit more fun or nicer just to see someone walk by and smile and say good morning, as opposed to just like a virtual message with no human being there. So that's something that I do miss and would miss if I continued working fully from home. But other than that, most of the processes, and since I'm still able to talk to students and help them the same as I did on campus, that's like the only thing that I really miss.
But if we did say, hey, stay home, Chastity, wouldn't you think we'd have to compensate you for at least some of the square footage of your home and your tech, your computer maybe. Interweb?
Just give me 1 second. I'm sorry. The virtual registration lab is asking me a question. The staff there, so just give me.
Go ahead. I'll switch over to Steven here. I feel like I'm doing an interview in an air traffic controller tower. Like, hey, wait a minute, we've got a plane coming in from Chicago. I'll be right back. That kind of thing. Steven, how about you? What percentage of what you're doing could you do from home?
Ash,
do you think?
To be honest, I would say 95%. It could be done at home because since the new scheduling system that I'm using right now is called CourseDog, is a web-based system that does the scheduling with CUNY First together. So emails from each department that sends in the passes. Mostly was not, I didn't have events to schedule, so that's the part I really missed. I didn't miss that much because running around looking for room space. So
well, that's a thing that we haven't even thought about, which is when we get back, as far as whatever the 1001, particularly in May. Yes. I think May and November are the worst months. Well, but May in particular, correct, because it's the end of the year as well. I mean, the academic year.
It's always mad.
Yeah, and it's madness.
I would say April and May are the madness.
It's like a battle of the bulge every year.
And I would say for fall will be October, November. Yeah, around there. So.
Yeah.
But
they try to get everything in. But so if people can sign documents online, because there's been a lot of that going on, right? Then you could pretty much do this from home. But what's the 5% then? You're saying 95% from home. What's the 5% you have to be physically there for?
Put up the signs, or just
really?
in case the classroom gets damaged. I do that myself.
Oh, you got to go do that?
It's a good exercise for me. I can't be at my desk all the time, so.
I see those signs, but you know what? I'd be honest with you, I never read them. Unless it's me.
I usually tell whoever's in the front of C107, I'm going to decorate, or I'm just going to put decorations on campus as Christmas decorations, or my calling card. I usually call it myself. So.
Right. It's interesting because when you mentioned room changes, so my office, the humanities suite is C750. 6. 45. What is it? What's my C745? Right. And we got a lot of classrooms on that floor, that one whole section of classes, whatever. But then there's also these kind of little other areas, and then inevitably a student gets lost. And one of the things, like you talked about how you say hi to people. My thing is to like drop everything I'm doing and literally walk this person around until we figure out where they're supposed to be. Because, it's always like a kid, maybe they've missed a couple of classes. So you go to one room and they're like, oh, no, this is it. And I might end up in your office, trying to find the room or calling you. Well, it's like a detective game, but you don't just send them off and, oh, well, it's, go where this thing, because forget it. They could, but you walk around with them, chances are you can make it happen, and that, you miss that. That's one of those things. I mean, personally, well, as a teacher, I mean, we talk about this all the time. How much of this can we continue to do this way? I like live theater, but there's a lot of my colleagues who are fine with television.
Nothing beats like a live theater right there. So.
Yeah, I mean, for me. And art in particular, to like look at the real objects at the museums. Chastity, you want to say something?
I was also adjunct since 2018 for public speaking, and I also had to do virtual when the whole pandemic happened. I just want to point out that I kind of agree with that. I, as a professor, prefer students to present presentations live in front of an actual physical audience, because I feel like it gives them a real connection with the audience and a real feel for what it is to do public speaking, as opposed to just recording yourself or speaking to a virtual to a computer of a virtual class. I don't feel like it gives them the full effect of what it is to stand in front of either a classroom or a full audience of students, and that can be overwhelming to some students. So that's a good question. Like, how long can we really do certain things for virtually before we finally can end up back on campus in the teaching part?
I will continue with Chastity, since I'm also a adjunct professor currently for the health science as the first year seminar. It is a little bit different teaching it on Zoom, but since I did a full in-person class at the end of October, students were like so happy to see things in person, like having a public audience right there, and they got the clear message and understanding the material or the interaction one-on-one with having your students right there face to face. So it's a big difference right there.
Yeah, I miss it, and we'll see if my classes run in the spring, because I guess I lost 2 out of whatever.
2 out of 3.
2 out of 3.
That was the fall.
Do you folks play any role in cancellations?
In the processing, I believe, right, Steve? Yeah.
That's me. Yeah.
So when a class, but you don't tell the term. You don't say to people, "Hey, this class has notes in it."
I actually, before class cans, in case if the department may have some courses on hold, then I will remind them. Then I'll cancel them before cancellation starts. So.
You're the one that takes them off the
right.
Off the rolls, off CUNY first. All right. Well, we're almost out of time, so I want to give you both an opportunity of anything that you don't think we covered, or that any thank yous anybody you want to thank out there in the CUNYverse.
The CUNYverse, I love that.
I would just want to thank just my department. Like, I want to give a shout out to all of them, all the staff members in the registrar's office. I know how hard it's been. We sat through it together. We talked through it together. It's been a really difficult process, but look at where we were then and look at where we are now, and just know that you were a part of that, and you should be proud of that. And I am so proud to be a part of this department, and I'm happy to be a team player.
I will agree with Chastity. I thank everyone in our team. We've been a lot from the good times into the great times. So we are a strong unit team.
First, just for all the other departments out there still trying, thank you so much for all your support. We appreciate it. We know how hard it is.
Well.
We're in this together as a college, as a LaGuardia Community College. So just want to say thanks to everyone.
All in one.
And just to be clear, so in the registrar's office, I'm trying to think of the flow chart. You are not under administration. You are under student affairs.
Yeah, I think we are under student affairs.
Other way around.
We will.
At the moment, we're not.
We're not
up in the air. We're not. Yeah, it's up in the air. So.
And are you under Dr. Butler or are you under Dr. Gilbex-Jarrett? Because they've split it up.
Yeah.
I asked the toughest question at the end.
Yes.
This is where Burhan might be good.
This would have been a Burhan Siddiqui question. Yes.
Because I know whoever it is, he answers to them every day. Well, I want to thank you, and again, you're the folks who toil silently in the machine, and the faculty take a lot of bows, and different folks like in the president's office or wherever it is, they get to take bows, but you guys are the straw that stirs the drink, in a sense, right? Couldn't run the place without you. So thank you for all the work you do for us. And for those of you who've been listening or been watching today's show here on What's Going On, I'm your host, Hugo Fernandez. And my guests today have been Chastity Fernandez, our business data and report analyst for the Registrar's Office, and Stephen Silva, our course scheduler at the Registrar's Office, who President Adams' words have gone above and beyond to keep the college running during the COVID-19 pandemic. And we started out the show with Sting. We'll finish off with what's left of They Dance Alone. And this is Steve and I. When I told Stephen I had found this, he's performing at Viña del Mar, which is in Chile, that's the South.
That's the
right,
South, yeah.
Stephen?
It's kind of like their closing event for their summer. They do like.
I think I may have even been in their stadium. I might have even walked through it when Scott and I took our students there to study abroad, because it looks quite familiar. But so maybe we should dedicate this show to Los Desaparecidos. All right.
Thank you, Hugo.
So, Mr. Pope, please take us out. Thanks for watching. Thanks for